In 1942, buried beneath the dark soil of an apple orchard in Warsaw, lay a collection of ordinary glass jars. These jars held a master ledger of human existence, a record of thousands of lives the occupation forces were trying to systematically delete. While the rest of the world remained largely inactive, Warsaw had become a testing ground for a specific type of horror. The Nazi objective extended beyond physical conquest. They were executing a plan to strip an entire people of their history, ensuring that no names, no lineages, and no cultural memory would survive the war. If a child escaped the ghetto but lost their original name, the regime still achieved its goal of cultural erasure. To truly save these children, their identities had to be protected as fiercely as their lives. Irena Sendler refused to accept that erasure. The Warsaw Ghetto was a space of total isolation. The occupation had turned residential streets into a prison, sealed off by a brick wall and guarded by armed patrols. Sendler entered into this zone every day. By wearing a nurse's uniform and carrying a clipboard, she used the pretext of checking for typhus to walk directly past the guards. She turned her administrative access into a weapon, using the Red Cross emblem to bypass a heavily armed military barricade that few others dared to approach. Getting inside was only the first half of the risk. Moving smuggled cargo out past soldiers with orders to shoot required absolute precision. She utilized any container that could fit a small child without drawing suspicion. Infants were carried in wooden coffins, in potato sacks, and in heavy mechanics toolboxes. To mask the sound of a crying baby, she used a trained dog that would bark fiercely whenever her vehicle approached a checkpoint, drowning out any noise from the back of the truck. The operation reached a scale that is difficult to fathom. Through this underground network, Sendler and her allies successfully moved 2,500 children into safety. This was not a series of lucky breaks. It was a professional underground operation that relied on calculated risk and total secrecy to move thousands of people through an active war zone. The Gestapo eventually discovered the network and arrested Sendler. They held her for weeks, subjecting her to constant interrogation and torture. Her captors were absolutely determined to break her, eventually crushing both of her legs to force a confession. She gave them nothing. She refused to surrender a single name, a single safe house address, or a single member of her network. She met their brutality with absolute silence. Her resolve proved that while a person can be broken physically, the ideas and people they protect can remain untouched. Sendler could stay silent because she had already built a failsafe.
The jars buried in the orchard were the archive of the entire operation. Before her arrest, she had meticulously documented the real identity of every rescued child on small slips of paper. She buried those names under her neighbor's apple tree with a single goal: to retrieve them after the war and reunite the survivors with their families. The rescue of the body was only half the work. By preserving their names, she ensured that these children would not become permanent, nameless ghosts of the regime. Sendler survived the war, emerging into a city that had been reduced to a literal field of rubble. She returned to the apple tree, dug up the jars, and spent years attempting to reconnect survivors with their surviving roots. She lived to be 97, passing away in 2008. Though she was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007, she did not win, a result that remains a subject of modern debate, as the 2,500 lives she saved continue to serve as a more enduring legacy than any single award.
The power to change history doesn't require fame or monuments. It requires one person deciding that they will no longer be a bystander.